Hi Novi, welcome to Let's Read, another episode that we are going to be sharing some great books today. And I have two fabulous leaders who are joining me, Steve Matthews from the Novi Community School District and Ken Gutman from the Walled Lake Consolidated School District. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Whew, okay, so I'm excited to have these two gentlemen here with me this morning because we have had the opportunity as a library to connect with the Novi School District for a number of years, and we're working on and building a wonderful relationship now with the Walled Lake School District. And who better to sit down with me this morning and talk about what's going on in the community and how the library is partnering and getting more involved with the two of you and with your districts. So I thank you both for sharing some time with me this morning.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm delighted. I know we're going to talk about some books, but before I do that, I want to ask two, I think, very important questions. And my first is to find out what's going on in your districts and what do you have planned in terms of goals that you're looking to accomplish this year for 17-18. Ken, you want to start?
Sure. Thanks, Julian. Thanks for inviting me.
Sure.
I really appreciate crashing your party. I know this is an ongoing thing here in Novi. In terms of goals for the year, we have a lot of district goals. We have 4 district goals,
Sure.
But it really all comes down to one thing, and that's making sure we do what's right for each and every one of our children. And so it's more than a year's worth of growth for each child. It's every child every day. That's our philosophy. That's our motto. But it really comes down to individualization. So if we were to talk about an overarching goal for the district, and that's all we care about as parents, what's best for my child, right? Are we getting what's best for, are we teaching, are we helping them learn? So it all comes down to making sure we're individualizing and doing what's best for each and every one of our children.
I love it. Do you have some new programs that you're working on currently or that you're bringing into the classrooms?
We always have new programs, and certainly early literacy is a big thrust, and not just because of the state's third grade retention law that they call a reading law, but I don't want to get controversial this morning. Ultimately, early literacy is really important.
Right.
So I don't know that there's a new program with early literacy, just a renewed focus on that. We've always been really focused on that. And in terms of a district-wide perspective, we're really focused on social justice and making sure we're doing what's right for each and every one of our children, respecting diversity, celebrating our differences, celebrating our similarities.
Well, and you've hit on 2 points, actually, Ken, that I love that we've been able to actually also piggyback, and hearing that that's an opportunity now for your district, and currently we're doing that with Novi, and that is some social justice work, some community conversations that we're trying to bring to the library, and also early literacy. We started a 1,000 books before kindergarten program a year ago. I'm happy to tell the community that we're over 500 students, or children I should say, that are actually reading with us to get to that goal. We had our first party this fall, and we had 16 children that have already read 1,000 books in 1 year. These kids are driven, and I appreciate also the support of parents and caregivers that are reading those books, obviously, to those children and doing that. So those are 2 wonderful words that I'm loving hearing, is that social justice and early literacy. Dr. Matthews, welcome, and why don't you share what's going on with the Novi District and some of the things you're working on this year?
Well, thanks for having me as well, and we like to collaborate with the Walled Lake School District, and they're a good partner for us. In Novi this year, a couple of things that we're working on. Our district goals really do, as Mr. Gutman suggested, focus on meeting the needs of every student that walks through our doors every day. We are this fall pretty excited to continue the work that we have with our Curiosity Kits, which are in our K-4 buildings, and then our makerspace that we're developing at our 5-6 building. Really trying to tap into some innovative ways to encourage students to explore their interests, their passions, and to connect kind of this idea of creating with our curriculum. And then secondly, another big kind of push for us is the mental health of our students. And so we're collaborating with the University of Michigan Depression Center, and we have Will Heiniger, who used to be a University of Michigan football player who now works for the University of Michigan Depression Center. He's coming to speak to our students at the high school next week, and then we're going to have a conversation with our parents about anxiety and the pressure that our students are feeling. And so we really believe that attending to the mental health of our students is just as important as attending to their academics.
I appreciate that conversation. Being a parent with a child now in high school, and I think what they're dealing with on a regular basis, there's a lot of stress for a young person, and there shouldn't be. You'd think that these are good times and good years that they're coming through, but there's a lot on their minds, and also with their growth and what they're doing at those ages as well. I know the other thing too that's come up that I want to thank our Chief of Police, Chief Malloy, is that there's been some conversations in the community about, the concerns for opiate and heroin, and we actually just had a community conversation last night here at the library, which brought a wonderful panel to discuss, this epidemic and what's going on. And what I appreciate is that you both have a pulse on your communities and your districts and what's going on and trying to do that, and then you allow us the opportunity as the public library to partner with you and also, show that that solidarity, I think, for us to try to get the community plus the district and children and parents involved in these types of conversations.
Not to be cliche, they say it takes a village.
It
but
does.
Working with you, working with the library, working with Chief Malloy, we're fortunate to work within Novi to see that kind of collaboration, and it's genuine.
It is.
Right.
No, it is. And I do believe that, at least for the library and for you as well, is good communication. We all want to make sure that there's good communication out there and different opportunities for these parents and children to hear good information when they can. That's why let me, both of you, I just commend both of you on communication. I'm still a Facebook person, so I guess that's dating me, but Twitter and, all the different social media that's out there, and you're out there putting yourselves out there to communicate and connect with your parents and your children. I see videos of the two of you, this morning I saw your skeleton photo, because it's Halloween time, and Dr. Matthews, you've done videos where you're actually in the classroom and you're principal or a classroom teacher for the day. So what I love about that, like you said, is the genuine opportunity to share that and to be part of that, and I thank you both for that. It is great that we're doing this all together, and it does build and it does come from a village, so yes. So Dr. Matthews, you've been in the district 6 years round,
starting
right?
my 7th year.
Starting your 7th year. And Ken,
Starting
you've
my
been
8th in Wallblade.
Okay.
Right.
So similar years that you've been in your districts, what would you say you're most proud of so far in the years that you've been in your districts?
Gosh, there are so many things
Sure.
to be proud
Oh,
of. I think for me, it's that sense that a lot of places talk about education, talk about, they say they value education, a lot of communities, but we're in an area that parents, staff members, administrators, business people, libraries, truly value education, and it shows in our students. And so what I'm most proud of is to be involved in, and we're in 9 municipalities, but to be involved in these, in this area where it's time, it's effort, it's energy, it's genuine, it's authentic, but it's about children. And I think, unfortunately, that's all too rare. And we're in a special place. And I'm really proud to be a part, a small cog, in the machine of taking care of kids.
That's wonderful. Dr. Matthews?
Novi is a great city. It's a great community. In the school district, as Ken mentioned, we're fortunate to be a part of that city. And the thing I think that we're most proud of in Novi is really our focus on trying to meet the needs of every student. We believe that every student who walks through our doors deserves a great education, and every student who walks through our doors, we try to treat as an individual, as a unique person, and try to find things that they're passionate about, find things that they care deeply about, and try to help them grow and mature into people when they leave our district that will be able to contribute to society in a positive way. And so we're really excited about the culture that we're building with the city, with our families, with our parents, about meeting the needs of every student every day, and trying to make sure that we really do believe that every student is important.
And I think you even have a pillar with your goals of social justice where every student has a voice, which I love. And when I have the opportunity, to talk about it, and we've just come on board the Library for Social Justice in a small port. We're growing with you actually as this continues, but I love that is something you consistently, and so does your administration, talk about, is every child having a voice. So, well, speaking of voices, which I know authors have amazing voices, Dr. Matthews, you've brought a few books, and I know, Ken, you've also, I've got a few things to share. Why don't you start with one of the titles today?
Okay. I brought a book by Catherine Applegate, Wish Tree. It's her brand new book, and this is a wonderful story. It's told, the narrator is a big oak tree in the community. And the oak tree kind of sees all that's going on in the neighborhood and has been there since the neighborhood began. But it's really about a story about an experience in the neighborhood in which one member of the neighborhood decides to scratch into the tree the word leave, because he wants this family who's different than the other families to leave the neighborhood. And so it's a timely book, and it talks about how the neighborhood then rallies around this family. And it it ends well, but it doesn't end with every bow nicely tied. But it really is a book that makes you think about the importance of the bonds of a neighborhood, about the bonds of friendship, about the way that communities can come together to support each other. And I would really encourage families to read this with their children. It's some of the characters in the book are kind of that middle grade
Sure.
age, and so it really is a wonderful story told from the perspective of a tree that has seen a lot of things in the neighborhood, and it just has a good flow to it, and a great story.
It sounds wonderful, probably, and it even sounds like something maybe a neighborhood could read together.
They could.
And do a talk with
Yep.
it or something. That's
it's
great.
a great book.
Ken, what do you have?
Well, it's interesting. You brought a new book, and I brought a classic. I
we
brought
love classics.
To Kill a Mockingbird,
Great.
which has been in the news lately because I know it's been banned, at least in one place.
Yes.
I taught this book years ago, and when my son recently asked me if he could, what book he should read for pleasure, this is the book I recommended. So I read it along with him. This is a book that, to me, talks about some of the issues we deal with in communities. Mm-hmm. It deals with racism. It deals with controversial issues. And it puts yourself in the place of some characters who we need to empathize. We need to feel what these characters feel. And so while this is a book that deals with racism, which is something we deal with today,
Sure.
this book is not only no less relevant, it's
Right.
more relevant.
Relevant.
And so I would encourage everyone to read the classic, To Kill a Mockingbird.
I love classics.
It is to me about as poignant a novel as there is out there. And again, more relevant today than it's been in the past.
Wonderful.
It deals with some serious issues.
Yes, great. Thank you so much. Dr. Matthews, I'm going to let you go again.
Okay.
Yes.
My second book is by Paul Calenti. It's When Breath Becomes Air. And this is a book for adults. It's a book about a medical student who becomes chief resident and has been healing people his whole life. And he suddenly becomes stricken with cancer. And it's the story of him and his wife and ultimately their young child that's born during this story, and what it means to wrestle with that tremendously difficult disease. And it gives you perspective on what's important in life. It gives you perspective on the things that we take for granted often. And so it's a difficult read in many ways. Because you kind of know how the story ends when it begins, but it really does give you some insight into what we should focus on in our day-to-day lives. And so I would encourage people to read it. I found it just really a tremendously uplifting book about what life can become.
Sure, and putting things in perspective. Absolutely. Ken?
All right. Well, I have a terrible habit of reading a lot of leadership books, and I'm trying to
all
break
get
out
there,
of that
yes.
and read for pleasure a little bit more. But this is The 5 Temptations of a CEO by Patrick Lencioni.
Great author.
Those who've read Patrick
Yes.
Lencioni know he tells his stories in the form of a fable.
Right.
They're really easy to read. They're easy to understand, but the concepts behind them, I think, can resonate in terms of the way to lead. This book talks about 5 temptations, as is in the title. The temptation that stands out for me, I think, is the biggest leadership trap any leader can fall into, and that's accountability versus popularity. Too many leaders fall into that trap, right? They want to be popular, they want people to like them. But when you do that, and when you're doing the right thing, that's really nice when people like you. But ultimately, it's about being accountable for your job and holding other people accountable. In our jobs, if we were to not focus on what's best for children and yet focus on what makes us look good, we lose sight of why we're here.
Absolutely.
We don't do what's right for children. We lose sight of the greater purpose. So this is not just about education. It's not just about leadership. It's about life.
Right.
If you seek to be popular, are you really doing what you should do to I don't know, further the greater cause, to be authentic? So that's just one of the 5 temptations. I think it's the biggest temptation and the biggest trap people fall into. I love Patrick Lencioni's writing.
I do too. Thank you. I appreciate that because that'll be good for our adult readers and some of our business watchers as well. And I have 2 books that I want to make sure people are aware of because we're bringing in authors to connect them. So the first is our community read. It's called Underground Airlines. And I know we've already mentioned a little bit about this book. Ben Winters is the author. He will be here on November 10th, which is a Friday night here at the library speaking about the book. The premise of the book is if there was no slavery and civil war, what would that mean? What would that look like? So it really, again, another book based on conversations that can be going on now currently and how things are being played out, how that could change things in our current world. And then the last book, and I apologize, and you were laughing at me, but it's because it's already checked out and it's not on the shelf. We are bringing in Ken Daniels and Bob Duff, both co-authors of the book, If These Walls Could Talk, Detroit Red Wings. So here, for all of our sports fanatics out there, it's stories from the Detroit Red Wings ice locker room and press box. And both of those gentlemen will be here on November 16th to be at the library and to sign books and talk about their book and their experiences that they've had interacting with players over the years. There is a foreword with Mickey Redmond, which I know is very popular. So hopefully our sports enthusiasts and our hockey fans will enjoy an opportunity to connect. Well, I want to thank both of you gentlemen for taking the time to spend this morning with me, share a little bit about what's going on in your districts. It is truly an honor and pleasure to work with both of you on a regular basis, connecting the public library. I always tell patrons and people in our community that you're first, number one, the kids start there, and then when those doors close, we become that afterthought, which we truly appreciate being available. Once your doors close at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we're that supplement, and hopefully we can be helping as well your students and your parents as they work with your districts. So thank you both for the time this morning, and thank you for joining us on Let's Read.